Andor is a show that nobody asked for. It was a show that, when announced as oh, look, it's a prequel to the midquel that was Rogue One of Cassian Andor, a character that wasn't really revered after Rogue One, despite Rogue One getting massive praise, including from myself, being the best thing that Disney Star Wars ever had. But it is a show that came out. Nobody really watched it when it came out. Season one got very low ratings, but then word of mouth spread. Everyone was saying, you got to see this show. It's the best thing that Disney's ever done. And sure enough, Andor season one, Andor season two, tremendous show. I think season one is an absolute masterpiece. Season two is also tremendous. Remy, we were talking prior to you watching the last 3 episodes of season two. We were talking about it. You were heaping giant superlatives upon Andor of where it ranks in the pantheon of TV shows in general. You have now finished the show. Where does it sit for you today?
I think it's as perfect as a show could be. That's 2 seasons. So that's it has the benefit of being short, right? But I just no show, especially within that time frame of 2 seasons, 12 episodes, 38 to 45 minutes each. I've never seen a show pack so much in, but not where the pacing felt rushed, but more so that just the character depth and development for a multitude of characters, the storylines, the how real it feels in a way that Star Wars has never felt real before, how relatable it is, all the like the real world comparisons and things that you can point to, and you're just like, every aspect of this show is handled and done so well and with such nuance and care that it just feels like a show, like what can happen when you give a very good storyteller full range to do what they want to do and not have all these studio execs being like, oh, you got to put that in there, you got to put this, we don't like that, change this. It feels very authentic to what he wanted to do and doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of studio involvement. And so for a show that has an insane budget, I mean, they spent so much money on this show, and I think for 2 seasons it's the greatest show that's ever been made. Like, I honestly don't think you could possibly make anything. I mean, I understand that you couldn't make something that as good as this, but I've never seen a show within the first 2 seasons be of such high quality and make me just bring me to tears. And I'm not the kind of guy that cries at shows and stuff, but it is just too emotionally hit me. I've never experienced anything like that before. It was pretty wild.
The only show that I would throw out there that I can even think was 2 seasons that would qualify in that tier would be Rome. Excellent show. It's kind of Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones happened. Tremendous show. Everyone should watch that. But yes, it's incredible what they accomplished in a singular vision. Even though initially Tony Gilroy talked about wanting 5 seasons and then made it 2. I think 2 works better because it is a show that takes place right before Rogue One. It leads up to Rogue One, but I don't think you needed 5 seasons. Jason, this show, where does it sit with you? How do you feel about it? And where does it rank with Disney Star Wars?
Oh yeah, very high up there as far as the ranking. And I mean, anything Star Wars I'm going to like, but I'm so glad this was like that extra level, you know? Okay, Book of Boba Fett. Something that we don't talk about.
Keep going. We got like 7 more projects to name.
Yeah, that is bottom of the barrel for me. So this is top tier. I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm so glad that you two appreciated and liked it. You know, and it's so cool that going to the Star Wars universe and doing something different. I mean, a political spy thriller. You know, it's like that is such a cool vessel to see the Star Wars universe from, because there is so much political stuff and how the Empire took over, and you know how that transition actually happened was so cool to see, and it didn't feel boring. It felt exciting. It felt like learning about these characters more. And yeah, Remy, you're so correct on how the characters got developed in this, and they took the time with each one of them. And I read somewhere over 200 named characters between the 2 seasons. 200 characters that had names on it, 6,000 extras. You know, there was a shit ton of people in this show, and I didn't feel like people got lost or forgotten about. And oh, I did want to see what happened to Andy Serkis's character season 2, and I was really
I
upset we didn't get
That's
to
the
see.
one
Yeah,
major
did he jump
fire
off?
that
Did he swim? Did he stay on there? What happened? So I mean, things like that too. So there was some really big characters that we got to see a lot of, and then some that we wanted to see even more of. But yeah, couldn't have been handled better. Beautiful. Watched it with my wife, and how much she even complimented on how everyone looked, like the style of the show and the scenes and the costumes and the writing and everything. And yeah, coming from the guy who did the Bourne movies, right? This is Gilroy did the first 3 Jason Bourne ones, and like I felt like that sometimes. There was like a very this political intrigue to it. So yeah, I cannot say enough good things about this, and yeah, ready to talk about some of these characters. I loved some of the characters in this season.
Let's start with Andor, Cassian Andor himself. That is the biggest complaint that I have of Rogue One, is that the characters generally are pretty forgettable, other than K2SO, which we'll talk about later. K2SO is incredible. Cassian's just kind of there, is in Rogue One, is like the connection between Jyn Erso and the rebellion. He's kind of in between both of their needs and wants. But you don't really, there's nothing about him you're like, oh yeah, Cassian Andor, he's one of the great Star Wars characters. But they do a great job in this show of not just him but everyone else, of filling out the backstory, giving them clear motivations, changing motivations and reasons why they would change their motivations. Everything's very intentional. Rem, where is Cassian Andor right now? Like, how do you feel about him after watching the 2 seasons of Andor versus how you felt about him after just watching Rogue One?
Oh, completely different. And there's a couple things. So I just I think we all did watch Rogue One immediately after finishing Andor season 2, right? Yeah. There's definitely a couple little retcon things in there. He makes a comment about fighting the Empire since he was 6, and it's like, all right, that's not really how the character feels in Andor. And then he makes another comment. I forget what it was, but there was something where I was just like, yeah, okay, all right, little things here and there that they like just changed, which is fine. But which makes him from like, yeah, basically being like when it was announced, that's a really random character to build a show around, to being like, oh my God, look at a character that has like so much depth behind him. Yeah, by the end of the show, you get a character that is fully fleshed out, and a lot of them are, but I think Andor is the best. It really stands out as being just the most dynamic character, with just complex motivations, and you're right there with him the whole time, but it's not rushed. It's not just like this one little thing happens, like, and then he's all of a sudden just 100% gung-ho. He's still dragging his feet, and like reluctantly so, kind of going through the motions of the rebellion before the end of the show, when he's like really, really, really fully committed into the character that he is in Rogue One.
And I think that's the whole point of the show. It's like there's not a switch that just happens and these characters turn either to the Empire or to the Rebellion. It's like the death by 1,000 cuts, or all these small little situations that build up to these characters that we see, in Rogue One. But man, some of those Empire characters, I enjoyed even more seeing their transition. Like what's his Kyle Solar is the actor. He was the guy. What was the character's name that was with Deidre? Like Deidre's second.
Cyril?
See, whatever, his mom was harassing him the whole time.
Oh yeah, Cyril. Yeah.
That guy, man, I loved his transition, and so unfortunate how his character ended too. But it was so just on the money, on the mark of just him and Deidre, how they kind of transitioned into their characters towards the end of the Empire. So yeah, character building, very good in this one.
The various characters are handled so extremely well, and the best part of Andor is the world building, not dissimilar from Shogun, where this is very much a World War II inspired show. And who knew that if you told someone, hey, would you like to hang out with Mon Mothma at her home talking political intrigue for an entire season, which is season 1, you'd be like, that sounds boring. Who the hell would want to watch that? It is riveting. And this season, she gets more to do with going to the Senate, and going. There's a wedding that they're having to do of their daughter, which is probably the worst part about the whole show. But her character being the political force. Like, how do you move from just a thought, an idea of rebellion, and actually becoming organized? And she's kind of the catalyst of that. She's the order part, whereas Stellan Skarsgård's character is the chaos. He's the guy that's trying to stir the pot, trying to find people to do whatever is necessary to create a substantial force in order to rebel against Emperor Palpatine and the Empire and what the Empire has become. There's so many characters. Jason, nobody loves listing off all their favorite characters more than you. Uh, which characters, other than the ones you just mentioned, stand out to you?
Honestly, Homegirl, his assistant, I think it was like Elizabeth.
Kayla or Clea.
Elizabeth Dula, yes, the actress, like Skarsgård's second in command. Like, I was so about her. Like, I mean, it's sleeper hit. Like, she was just in the background assisting him until she was almost the driving factor more than he was. I think there's a scene where it's him and their informant inside the Empire are trying to remove the listening device on this like piece of artwork that they have at there, and of course Middleton, is that actor's name, the great guy from lots of good movies.
You brought up
This
Jason.
Ben Mendelsohn, yes.
Ben Mendelsohn, yes. Tremendous actor.
It wouldn't be an episode if I didn't butcher someone's name. So it's just my calling. But yes, yeah, her Elizabeth, that actress, she in that scene just was a scene stealer. And then her, of course, I think the whole episode was her infiltrating that hospital and finally, taking out Skarsgård at the end, which he would have wanted. So it's like, yeah, that was those sort of characters where I'm like kind of going along and they're in the background, and all of a sudden they come to the forefront and just blow you away. So the fact that there was at least like 3 or 4 of those, but she definitely stood out to me as probably one of the top ones. And I mean, yeah, that Deidre though too. She was so intriguing every time she came on too as well. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like really looking forward to the Empire scenes almost more than some of the Andor scenes.
The biggest problem with season 2 is the beginning. The first 3 episodes, specifically the first 2 episodes where Andor's hanging out with a bunch of just wandering idiots that are trying to rebel, but they have no plan.
Yeah, what? That's why I had to text you guys, but like get to the first couple.
Forest monkeys,
it was bad. Like, it was really stupid. Like, I'm so glad I waited until the show was right before the last 3 episodes came out to binge the show, which I'm glad I did, because yeah, those first 3 episodes were rough. I watched Tony Gilroy talk about how that group and those 2 people were inspired by, I think it was his son. Like, his son at dinner was arguing with his friend, and I think that's his son that's actually in the show that plays that character. And he's like, well, 2 idiots arguing at dinner. This would be an interesting idea. Turns out it actually is just a waste of time. It added absolutely nothing to the show. It just really is just spinning Cassian Andor's wheels, just doing nothing. And the worst part of it, the absolute worst part of it, is that the editing on those first 2 episodes where he's stuck with these idiots, it's 30 seconds of Andor, it's 30 seconds of Mon Mothma, it's 30 seconds of other characters. It just keeps bouncing, and you're like, what? Why is this happening? Why are we stuck with this terrible situation, and why am I not getting enough time to breathe, which they do much better as the show goes on. You finally get plenty of time to hang out with the various characters. But those first episodes were rough.
Well, we had quite a few years between, I think, season 1, 2, like what, 4, 5 or something like that. I felt like it was a long time between it. So I'm sure they were using this as a catch you up and get you familiar with the characters again. But that's when a show fails me, is when they think they need to hold your hand through that sort of shit, and shows like Game of Thrones that just throw you straight into it, where it's like, no. If you didn't do your research, you're lost, and it sucks for you. And I really think that they did a horrible job of that. Those first couple were like, okay, this is another Star Wars show with all this other knowledge that you needed beforehand. Let's give you a couple ones to get you reacquainted, refamiliarized with this world again. But no. Don't treat us like idiots by making us think we need those sort of episodes to get us going again. That was a sour taste in my mouth. And it was funny because Last of Us came out the same time. Last of Us started off great. Those first couple episodes are going good. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be my show, and Andor's not. And then it do the complete flip of where Andor's crushing it at the end, and I could care less about The Last of Us.
Rem, the peak of the show is There is the whole season basically revolves around the planet Gorman. Gorman is this planet where these spiders spin these mystical clothing items that people that can sell that are highly
I wanted to see more of those. I want to see more spiders.
spiders are weird looking. They had CGI spiders. It was very strange. It was very un-Star Wars looking. I don't know. It's whatever. It's not important. But the Empire has other plans for Gorman. There's precious resources that they want for something that they're building out on the planet. And so they're slowly going about trying to strip mine the planet of resources. And that leads to the peak of the entire show, which is a protest gone wrong. Rembo, talk me through. I think it's episode. What is it? Episode 7.
It's episode 8.
Episode 8. Who Are You?
Yeah,
Which is a 9.8 on IMDb. Everyone loved this episode. A brutal episode. Talk me through it.
it's the whole Gorman arc is done so well and feels so raw and just like, because it's obviously the Gorman accent and they're speaking basically French, and then obviously with the Empire being Nazi Germany, it does feel just like you just took a story straight out of not like Nazi occupied France and just plopped it into the Star Wars universe. And it is, and so it's like you have the French. I mean, I keep on saying French, but you have the Gorman underground. Their clothing is even very French, kind of almost French inspired, and so it makes it feel so real. And you're watching Cyril, who is just such a well-crafted character. His like at his heart, Cyril is just obsessive about his sense of duty. He just has this undying sense of duty, and he's not an evil person. He doesn't wish death on these people, but he's just bought into the Imperial system and thinks they should be controlled or whatever. But then it's like everything ramping up into that. It's like you see him unraveling because he's starting to realize what is about to happen and that he's being kept in the dark and that Deidre's been lying to him. And then you get Deidre, who's on the Imperial side, who's also clearly not a murderous person. Like she had no problem torturing Bix, but she knows what they're doing is completely fucked. And the fact that she has to be the person to give the go ahead to murder all these people is clearly rattling her. And so you're watching this happen. You're watching these two characters on the evil side unravel. And then you have this impending sense of doom and just, what's going to happen. It's been spelled out since a couple episodes prior. And it's such a slow, painful burn to watch, as it's like all of these innocent people that are like being completely taken advantage of, and like their planet is, I like get so emotional. I don't know why this scene hits me so hard, but it's all of these people that have no idea what's about to happen, and it's all been pre-planned, and it's like they're literally just walking into this mousetrap. And they just do the class, and then basically the Empire initiates it. They set the fuse, they set it off, and everybody just gets slaughtered. And it is the most impactful Star Wars scene of anything I've seen, second to the Anakin's downfall in Star Wars Episode 3, and maybe a Luke's final confrontation with Vader in Episode 6. But other than that, I think this is like the heaviest Star Wars shit that I've ever seen. And it is, and just everything about it, how it's shot, the music, the build is this show should win every Emmy. Every single Emmy that you can win, this show should win it.
Yeah, no, it was a heavy episode. It made me feel like, how much has this really happened in history? It's like, this is straight from the history books. This isn't, they didn't have to think too much about this one. It's like, okay, let's go back to some other, situation where they, sparked the powder keg of revolution. So it even felt better about all this, is like, this is how it would normally play out or something like this, So yeah, it was heavy. It was really good.
It's worth noting, someone has to say it, So all these protesters show up. They're protesting the fact that their planet is just being serially essayed, and the Empire. I think it's worth saying the Empire has a right to defend itself. Okay, I know this is an uncomfortable thing to say, but
Oh
listen, there's a lot
no.
of rebels or insurgents or terrorists. Even they're hiding amongst the other civilians. What do we expect the Empire to do? Is the Empire just going to sit there and take it? I listen until all the insurgents are squashed. I just don't see what we want stormtroopers to do. So I will say that. Uh, regardless, it's a brilliant episode, and yes, the layers, the historical comparisons that are right there. Most of the things, I mean, there's so many different political aspects of the show. I mean, everything from Bix being an illegal, I think literally in this sense, an illegal alien. I mean, from another planet, literally, being searched for papers, and that's why the Empire is looking for people like that. The planet being absolutely butchered. Everything you can connect it to something in real life, but most of the time it's something that feels so natural to the story that it doesn't feel like, oh, we're beating you over the head with modern politics. It was handled so well, and it's incredible. It's incredible that Tony Gilroy was given the creative license to be able to tell his own story, and it does feel. Whereas, and that's maybe the hot take is that Rogue One to me is, I love Rogue One, but it's not as good after watching Andor, because Andor is so much better, and then you can see all the little Disney stuff that they add to Rogue One, whereas this feels much more like a cohesive vision. K2SO is so awesome. I love the introduction of the KX units. They're just used as crowd control and basically riot police, and they come out and just wreck everyone on Gorman. And it's just awesome to see how powerful they are. They're definitely nerfed in Rogue One if you compare them to being bulletproof, basically, in that scene. But that's how they get K2SO. He gets rammed by a speeder, and then they take his body parts. Cassian takes his body parts back to the rebellion, and that's how we get the origin story of K2SO. My favorite character of Rogue One.
Well, and it's even better too because K2SO throws Andor into jail, and originally, he's the one that's strangling him on the beach. It's like how his relationship with that droid unit or that style is good throughout both seasons.
Rem, I mentioned previous to this recording, I mentioned that there is a frame in this show in the final sequences. That's it. So yeah, I feel like Remy. I'm like, wait for it. There's a episode coming up that has a masterpiece frame that looks like it's ripped right out of a graphic novel, and it is Ben Mendelsohn putting the finger on what's her face's head. It's just
Deidre.
it is such a stirring image. It's so brilliant. She's like mid-tier, and
Oh,
just the absolute shrinking of her character under the weight of Imperial authority. Oh my god, it's worth watching the whole show for that frame, because it's just so beautiful.
I love it. It's just the top half of his mouth. He's just talking to her like this, and then he walks around the room, and you never even see the top of his head, and then he just puts the finger right on top of her head, and then he like flicks her off with it. It's so great. It's so great. Oh my god, dude.
Episode
Ben,
she's strangled by Buddy too. God.
yeah, that's a crazy scene when he's the like Cyril is the guy that's like constantly under the power of a woman. Like first it's his mom, and he's not strong enough or bold enough to be like to tell her to shut the fuck up, and he just kind of lives under her scrutiny. And then Deidre is more of the same, of like this really strong woman, female character who's like, all right, I'm gonna kind of control you and like clearly use you. She cares for him, but she's using him. And then it's just like that's the one moment where he basically snaps into feeling some sense of like control and power when he's like choking her. And then it was intense. I was like, is he gonna fucking kill her right now? Like you feel like it might.
That was intense.
And then it leads into the showdown that I never even really thought we were gonna get, which was him and Andor. Like, I understand that, like, at that point, it was like, all right, they're on the same planet, maybe they'll meet. But I never felt some need for, like, oh, I need the Cyril Andor showdown. But it was really satisfying. It was great. Like, Cyril, like, has some real chops, and he's like just going completely berserk, and it's like, and he's like, and Cassian's last line to him is just like, "Who are you?" And then he just gets
I
shot in
knew
the
it.
head.
I knew that was going to be his last line too, because I love the juxtaposition of that. Like, he is obsessed with Andor, Cassian, and Cassian doesn't even know who he is, you know. And that's
Right.
so much of those relationships work out like that, or that obsession. That was good.
Who are you? Is Tony Gilroy's? I've got a bad feeling about this because Andor says it to the religious lady, like the healing lady on the
Force
planet.
healer.
And then in Rogue One, that's what Ben Mendelsohn says to Jyn Erso. He screams, "Who are you?" I think the theme is these characters, like, and at that point they'd never met. Like, Jyn Erso had never met. I always want Daggett. Daggett's his character in his name. Krennic, thank you. Never met Krennic, but they've been battling, pretty much unknowing of the other person, of what the other person's doing, but they have existed in this space. So not necessarily the religious lady. I actually didn't even like that whole sequence. I hate force healing. Force healing's stupid, and it just creates so many more problems than it fixes, literally. So whatever. But anyway, I think it's an interesting concept. The "who are you" thing is normally that's in a movie where it's kind of cheesy, where it's just like, "Who are you?" "Well, I'm the son of the father you killed, and I'm here to kill you." It's always something like that. But I think it's handled really well, and it's done well in Rogue One. It's done well in this because the characters have existed in this vacuum, unknowing of the other person's moves.
I definitely think that Rogue Andor made Rogue One better. Rogue One made A New Hope better. You know, it's like it was these like little building on these things, even though it was all backwards. But now when we go back and watch A New Hope, you know, seeing that Vader, you know, seeing that ship leave, you know, right as we're getting to see that ship, you know, come in, you know, made Rogue One or A New Hope so much better. And now, like, immediately going into the Rogue One, I was like, yes, I now know so much more about Forrest Whitaker's shitty ass character. Sorry, he is the worst. I'm so glad that he was a very
Forrest, I think, is one of the characters that benefits the most from Andor. I think he's so much more interesting and gives so much more backstory. The fact that he's all fucked up because they're getting high on jet fuel, like, that's like, but I think his character is retroactively so much more interesting and done so much better.
Least favorite of all the characters in it, but you're right. He needed a little bit more backstory. But yeah,
I agree.
Trumped.
100% Rembo. His character is so weird in Rogue One when you first watch it, and he's just like, "Paul Gunn." He's got like this weird, like, raspy voice, which he doesn't. I thought they were gonna like lead into that raspy voice, and because of he's doing all those huffing paint fumes, and like I thought that it was gonna lead to that. It doesn't, because his final thing that he says on the hologram when he finally is breaking off communication with Mon Mothma, he kind of sounds normal. And then when we see him, he's very much. But you see the decline of his stability. Like, everyone's paranoid on some level, but Saw Gerrera is the I agree. He benefits the most because you see how he goes from being one of the first rebels, but then just becoming so crazy. My complaint of where I don't know if it's a complaint as much as, like, I don't know how. I don't think it works as well. It kind of bothers me a little bit, which is Stellan Skarsgård's character. What's his name?
We haven't even talked about Luthen. Oh my god!
I know.
Sorry.
I was going to lead into Luthen, who is the MVP of the whole show. Luthen, his whole story leads to he has a connect that works for the Empire. It's the best part of the entire show when he gives his speech in season 1 when his connect wants to quit, and he doesn't let him quit, and the connect tells him, and he's like, what have you sacrificed? And Luthen just says the most beautiful speech in the history of Star Wars about how he's not going to see the end of this, and he knows he's not going to see the end of this.
We're both going to get hanged at the end of this one.
So Luthen finally gets the information. I forget the guy's name. The Imperial
Young.
mole.
That's Young. Young.
Young. So Young tells him about the Death Star, gives him all the information about the Death Star, and then Luthen kills him. Luthen then gets that information. Eventually, it winds up in Andor's hands. But then we get another character, Tivik, who is the character that Andor kills at the beginning of Rogue One. Tivik tells him at the beginning of Rogue One that there's the Death Star, and so he's at the end of Andor. He's giving this character Tivik, which we don't see in Andor, giving messages to the rebellion saying, I will only talk to Andor. And he's a Saw Gerrera guy. So he's a Saw Gerrera guy that's built a relationship that we didn't see with Andor. And then so he ends up telling Andor the same information that Stellan Skarsgård died for. And so you could say like, oh, they're reaffirming like from a secondary source about it. The only thing that Tivik tells him that we didn't know before is that there is a Imperial pilot that is flipped. So he gets that information. But to me, I'm kind of like when you watch Rogue One right after Andor, it's like, but Stellan Skarsgård's whole sacrifice was getting the information. But then he also gets it from Tivik. So that kind of like, I feel like it could have been a little neater. Tivik could have been someone that worked with Young and like was slowly starting to break away, and maybe saw like what Young was doing. And anyway, it's not the end of the world, but it is a little like, oh, we also got this other guy that tells him the information. Again, it's hard to connect things that were made almost 10 years apart the same way that, connecting episode 3 and episode 4 was very, it wasn't perfect. Leia is like, oh, I remember my mother, like she died when I was very young. I was like, yeah, like minutes old. You remember minutes old. Okay. So there's things that aren't going to connect perfectly. Anyway, that's my gripe.
That's fair. That's definitely fair. Yeah, Tivik says the actual words Death Star, whereas they don't say that at all in the like Luthen never hears those words. He doesn't transfer those words to Clea, who transfers to Danor. They never say the word Death Star. They just say super weapon. So he has a little bit of details there, but yeah, I do see what you're saying. My God. I mean, Tony and I literally like called it, where we were like, Stellan would kill himself if that's what, or Luthen would kill himself if that's what he thought the rebellion needed. And because he is, again, like, and the characters say this through the show, is like, none of this is possible without him. And it's like, you have all of these like upper echelon characters, the senators that are all like making bigger moves behind or like in front of the scenes, whereas Stellan is the guy that's manipulating everything behind the scenes and has all the connections between everybody. And he is such an awesome character. I really enjoyed that backstory. Sometimes flashbacks can kind of be annoying, but I really enjoyed the Clea and his backstory. And kind of giving that final little bit of connection during that episode, which was really fun. But Luthen's just his ferocity and his willingness to murder anybody and murder anyone in the name of the cause. Like that could be his best friend. If Clea, like if he thought Clea started to waver, he'd probably kill her in her sleep. Yeah. Like he is the most consistent character in the show, and you just know exactly what his motivations are. Not as layered as some of the other characters, but you don't need him to be. He is the unwavering commitment. And again, in that speech that you talk about, like he says, like I'm recluse to using my enemy's weapons against them, and it's like he doesn't like it, but he does. Like the second that Mon Mothma's like old best friend, like as the second that he starts to like shake and seems like not gonna be, or that he's gonna be a problem, Luthen's just like, oh god dang it, we're gonna have to kill him, I guess. And he does that several times through the show. I love it. I love Luthen's character. He's so great. Very great touching moment, his send off with Clea. And then obviously, stabbing himself. And
Yeah, that
Yeah.
moment right there, him and Deidre coming together after they had these 2 seasons worth of paths that were like right next to each other, aligned, going the same direction, then meeting up at his shop right there. And then, yeah, that conversation, him stabbing himself and all that sort of stuff. And her like shook by that, she is down on the ground like, oh my god, my whole career is gone if you die. There's like all these, she wasn't worried about him, his health or anything like that. She finally found him, and then she's like shook on the ground, like sitting there like, fuck, I just let him stab himself. So I thought there was such a great character build up for both of those two, and then how they both ended was just
Deidre, great finish for her, ending up in the shitty ass prison is so great. And that last shot of her as it like clicks out and she just drops her head into her hands and you see the floor light up. So goddamn satisfying. But yeah, her character interesting. Where Cyril is completely driven by duty, she is on the other end, or on a different end, she is completely driven by ambition and like personal glory, to a point where, yeah, it's like she feels like she's the bad bitch that just like finally got this guy, and she's like riding the high of like, I finally found him. And then as soon as he stabs himself, she realizes like, oh fuck, what have I done? I completely fucked this up. And
and
then it's
Buddy's
just
like,
spiral.
you did this mission on my day off behind my back.
Yeah.
Story of it.
I love that they even get days off. I just assume they don't. Like, it's nice that the Imperial has at least weekends.
The Monday, Tuesdays off. The slowest days for the Empire.
Someone on Twitter perfectly said it perfectly, that the show, is all about fascism and how the Empire, it's an aspect of fascism that people forget because they just think about, the Empire killing rebels or innocent people, but it doesn't just destroy the people that are opposed to it. It also destroys everyone within it. I mean, you see that with Vader. I mean, anyone that was the second in command was gonna get got the second that something went wrong. You let the Millennium Falcon slip, like you were gonna die. And as soon as someone fails, the person above them's like, hey, they failed, off to the brig, or we got to kill them or whatever. Which leads me to one of my favorite characters. He's just an incredible character actor, Anton Lesser, who plays Partagas. Just wonderful from Game of
Kyber.
Thrones. So wonderful.
Yeah.
And he's the guy. He's the even keeled. He is the level headed.
We're talking about the head of the ISB.
Yes, he is the head of the ISB.
Yeah,
Deidre answers to him, and he is constantly just super logical. He's got a mission. He's doing his job, and then when things finally go bad, that he realizes it's over, and then that's the first time you really see him break away from being the guy that's kind of in control of the ISB. He starts to get frazzled, and he's like realizes that he's gonna die. They're gonna execute him. So they let him in a beautiful scene. He's like, I just need some time, and they let him go to his office, and he shoots himself with a laser blaster. The guy that's outside the doors, the two stormtroopers, like Joel, as if they're gonna do something, and he just has his hands down at his waist. He's just like, oh, it's not a big deal. We knew this was going to happen. It was great. Yeah. Wonderful moment. Very much, here's a callback. Very much Great Race, or The Great Escape, with the Commandant being like, it's over. Like, I let all these prisoners out. He's going to the Russian front. He knows he's going to the Russian front. It's very much in that kind of realm.
I'd take that over getting force choked by Vader any day.
I don't know. Would you rather just have Vader grab you and chuck you against the wall in a force choke, or would you rather be sent to the prison brig? What do they say? Program on or whatever?
Oh yeah, program on off the floor.
What is that phrase that they use?
Is that what it is? Program on?
Something like that. Anyway, would you rather be sent to that prison? Because that prison is a hellscape.
I could make those machines super quick. I'd get all my food and
sleep. You're going to be gunning for Andy Serkis's job?
Yeah, as far as prisons go, I mean, you're there forever. I mean, that's what sucks. There's no getting out, but it's
they kill you. They kill you when you're at the end of your sentence.
Yeah, or transfer you to another floor, right? It's like, yeah, you're getting out. It's, nope, you're going down to floor 6 instead of...
Anyway, final thoughts, Rembo. Final thoughts and send off to Andor, the show that was.
Bummed it's over. Really enjoyed that ride. And it just sucks knowing this is probably the first and last greatest Star Wars product we're ever going to see, because the next thing that's going to come out is Mando Grogu. Low expectations for that. And then we get the Rey movie and whatever else fucking stupid shit we're going to get. It's just, we have peaked so high with this show, and it's just like, wow, this is what Star Wars could be. And it's never, ever, ever, ever going to live up to this again. So I'm enjoying it while it lasts. I am enjoying talking about it with people that are watching it. And it's again, like, not without flaws. Nothing is. This first couple episodes of season 2, season 1 I think is basically top to bottom perfect, but season 2 has a little couple, the first couple episodes, not perfect, but overall, just as a product, making a show that makes you genuinely care has done its job. And I have never cared in such a short period of time. I've never cared about a show the way I care about this show, and the characters and the story and everything. So 12 out of 10, absolutely perfect. Best show within 2 seasons that could ever possibly be written.
No, I think this is a sign of things to come. I think that they've realized that they just can't throw shit at the wall, and hopefully it sticks with Star Wars. I mean, they've lost so much money and so much credibility off those first 3 movies, or the sequel movies not having any direction as far as that, and then a lot of these shows going bad, them having the writer's strike and COVID and all these kind of things behind us. I think that we're going to now focus a little bit more on one Star Wars project a year that'll be really good, and a lot more animated stuff. I think we'll get some small stuff like that, but no, I think this is a sign of things to come. I think they're realizing that this is a direction that they can take Star Wars, and it'll make the money, and if they just pump the brakes and slow down a little bit, that they can crank out stuff like this. So no, I 12 out of 10, just like you guys, and I loved it, and I'll be rewatching this show every couple of years. But let's hopefully there's some more. No, and honestly, I don't want more Andor. This was great. I don't think this story or this time period needs to be touched anymore. Use that same focus on the different periods in the Star Wars universe, and I'll be a happy fan.
Well, I have to leave.
I was just going to say, just on that note, if Star Wars really wants to prove to me, show me that you've changed. This is like, when somebody's cheated on you, and you're just like, you got to prove to me that you changed.
Take you back. You got to do X, Y, Z.
You got to show me that you can tell a story that is nowhere near connected to anything else that we've watched yet. Like, go 1,000 years into the future, or go 1,000 years in the past, but nothing can possibly touch the Skywalker saga. Can't have anything to do with that. If you're really going to show me something new and different.
Interesting.
Jason, you are so incredibly, beautifully naive and wrong. First of all, this was done. The show should 100% credit should go to Tony Gilroy. I know he was very generous by saying, "Oh, this is all made possible by Catherine Kennedy," and it's like, no.
I did see that he was trying to lift her up on this one.
Yeah, no. This is the sports. I love sports analogies. This is the New York Knicks. This is James Dolan is one of the worst owners in all of sports. He has presided over a garbage franchise for 20 years, and what's happened because of one good season, you're like, oh, James Dolan knows what he's doing. No. This is in spite of Kathleen Kennedy. This is in spite. And thank Christ we did not get Mr. Fugazi. What's the cowboy hat guy, Jason?
Filoni.
Dave Fugazi, the worst Star Wars personality in the history of time, who has done nothing but prop his own Ahsoka up to make her something she's not. I am Ahsoka. I am Dave Filoni. No, okay. They're still making products for Star Wars. Tony Gilroy is not. Ostensibly, he's done. He's going to move on and someone's going to give him a blank check to make something for Netflix or HBO, and hopefully it's good. I don't know. But Star Wars is still in the worst of hands. It will never, ever get back to Andor status. You can quote me on that. Never will you get anything from Star Wars that will ever represent this, unless it gets bought by someone else that makes their own thing. I don't think the Ryan Gosling project. Oh, no, Jason's gone. Jason got so mad at me calling Dave Fugazi, Dave Filoni, Dave Fugazi, that he left. He quit.
All right.
May Dave Fugazi be with you.